Well, that was a fun ride. Okay. You're gonna have to excuse the volume here, but I am the only person awake right now in my house, so I'm going to be very, very quiet, and I don't want to disturb the peace. So, I saw Iron Man 3 tonight, an advanced showing. It actually, on the East Coast right now, I believe you are watching the midnight shows. Or you have, not too long ago, also come out of advanced showings. And my first reaction is, that was fun. That was fun. And maybe it's just the time of night, but I found this Iron Man to be very grueling, very aggressive, and very action-packed. And sometimes that can be a bad thing. Oh crap, half of you just left the video, I know you did. But don't worry, this is a positive review, this is a good movie, and I know that millions and millions and millions and millions of people are going to go out and see this weekend. And they have every right to. They are going to love this movie. Hopefully a lot of them will. I know there's going to be some people who criticize it, and yeah, there's some things to criticize, I'm sure, but certainly this is one of the better Marvel movies. I think Phase 1 started and ended just perfect. Iron Man was the perfect introduction, the Avengers was the perfect conclusion. That this is one big universe. This is not one planet of superheroes. This is one big universe, potentially, of superheroes as we get into Phase 2. And Guardians of the Galaxy is not really centered on Earth. But but certainly here in Iron Man 3 we get more of a return to, you know, traditional stuff. Like Iron Man 1 and Iron Man 2. There's no aliens in the movie. I don't think that's a spoiler, but the rumors were floating around that the Guardians of the Galaxy were supposed to come in and that the whole last act was supposed to be like that. Not true. Not true, I can tell you that. And I don't think that's a spoiler either. So this will, yeah, otherwise I don't think I'll reveal anything, and I'll leave the audiences to be surprised by certain things, and they'll enjoy other things. But the first thing I have to say is I give 100% of the credit to the writing of this movie to Shane Black. Even though Drew Pearce helped him, this was a Shane Black movie all over. And I love that. It's a cool aspect. And I think Shane Black is, he's kind of new at directing. So there's some technical stuff, some CGI doesn't look all that effective. And one thing I really noticed was the dialogue when people were in cars and they were having a conversation. It sounded like they were in a little bit of an echo hall. But, you know, that's a minor quip. You know, it's over as soon as you notice it, practically. Let me see. I have to say, this was one of the funnier movies in the Marvel series. Like, there's movies like Captain America that are, you know, have some humor, not a whole lot. There's movies like, let me see, like The Incredible Hulk, a little bit of humor, not a whole lot. Iron Man is humorous. Iron Man 2 is humorous, at times. The Avengers is very humorous. This was right on that level of very humorous, and this is almost branching on action comedy almost. But what do you expect? Shane Black is the man who wrote the first Lethal Weapon. And there were a lot of similarities in certain scenes that are like Lethal Weapon. And one of them I noticed was there's a scene in Lethal Weapon where Riggs is going around Christmas trees in a lot, and Tony at one point is running into a lot that has a lot of Christmas trees in it. That's a nice thing. And the other nice thing, of course, is right at the end, toward the end, there's a scene, I don't think, it's practically in all the trailers, where Rhodey and Tony go into the big action set piece at the end, and it's just like Riggs and Murtaugh from Lethal Weapon. And the way that the villain, or villains, the way the villains get what they deserve, the same way they did in the first Lethal Weapon movie, something just felt extremely similar between the two. And it's a cool reaction. And of course, some people say, well, they're ripping off Lethal Weapon. No, it's the same guy. I mean, it's obviously not a rip-off. And I'm a person who really likes Lethal Weapon. I think, actually, the original Lethal Weapon is like the second, I voted it once the second best action movie of all time, as a matter of fact. So, a lot of the credit I give to director Richard Donner and writer, back then, Shane Black. So, I have to say, Robert Downey Jr., continues his strong performance lineup here as Tony Stark, Iron Man. He is absolutely the role, and confirms the way, yes, I mentioned in my other review of Iron Man 1, that he is the Sean Connery of the Marvel Universe. He is the defining actor to lead this charge. He led the charge in the Avengers, and he has absolutely ruled as Iron Man, so I have no quips about his performance whatsoever. I think it's nearly a flawless performance. You know, there's little things, of course, but I probably can't mention them because it would ruin some really funny lines, and there's other things where it's just kind of a little, you know. But there was one quip in particular that I found really, really strange. There's a scene, you know, it's in all the trailers, where the Malibu house gets attacked by a bunch of helicopters. And the way they filmed, the way it ends up in the finished film is there's an argument going on in the house, and one of the characters points out, hey, should we be worried about that? And on the TV they show a missile coming toward the house. I think that's a rather strange way. This person, as anybody would, if there's a missile coming toward the house, you wouldn't be that calm. You wouldn't say, should we be worried? You'd be saying, ah, you'd be running out of, you would be freaked out. I would be freaked out. Anybody would be freaked out, but everybody in the room was calm, and it was weird. I don't know. The bunny was funny. I have to say that. You see it in a couple trailers and stuff. There's a huge bunny that comes at one point in the movie. It's toward the beginning, actually. That was funny. I give my holy praise to the comedy of this movie. That's the spirit of the comedy of this movie. It's unexpected. It's large. It's right in front of us, you know, in the foreground of the film. You know, it's almost like the film runs on its comedy to kind of keep it going, you know, because the action scenes sometimes feel a little bombastic and a little, sometimes, not always, but a little bombastic and a little explosion heavy sometimes. But I think as far as action goes, this was one of the better ones of the Marvel series. The end battle in Iron Man 2 was pretty good. I have to admit, I like that. The Avengers final battle and a lot of the stuff before it, like the helicarrier attack, for instance, in the Avengers, those are great moments in action-wise in Marvel films. In this one, the end was great. The scene before it with, I can't really say it because you've seen it in the previews, there's an attack on Air Force One. That scene was thrilling and just absolutely kept me glued to the edge of my seat, and it was absolutely tense, and you feel that tension. I wouldn't necessarily call that an action scene. That's almost like a thriller scene, you know, almost. But then it does, I don't know, it has its own ending, and it's kind of offbeat a little bit. And then the Malibu attack, that's pretty cool stuff. The computer effects in that are pretty well done. And there's a couple other things, computer effects wise, that I really, really liked throughout the movie. Let's see, let's keep going through the cast here. That's usually a good place for me to start. Gwyneth Paltrow gives, as always, a really strong and sometimes very comedic performance as Pepper Potts, and she, you know, the spirit, you know, is still there with her. Don Cheadle gives another good performance in his career. I liked him better here than in Iron Man 2. In Iron Man 2, I think he's still, it's almost like Iron Man 1, he's still getting used to the suit, you know, he's still getting used to this character. Here, it's a little bit more, you know, although I could have used a little bit more of him. He kind of disappears at one point in the film, and then we're like, oh yeah, he's in this movie. Whereas, and then you get the two villains. You get Adrian, it's Adrian Killian or something like that. Aldrich Killian, that's it. Yeah, I don't read the comics, forgive me. But, yeah, Killian in this movie, Guy Pearce did a pretty good job. I think his writing was the problem here. I think the villain that he played, I don't think that's a spoiler. Look at his last name. It's got the word kill in it. You know he's a bad guy. And a lot of the trailers, you can just tell. They're trying to BS their way through, oh, it's a good guy. No, it's a bad guy. We know it. His performance was fine. I think it was just the writing. You know, some of his dialogue was just cheesy and not all that great. And that was one of the kind of downgraded the film a little bit. But but certainly the stronger of the two villains, I think, is Ben Kingsley's Mandarin. He did have a couple of moments where his menace was similar to that of the Joker's menace in The Dark Knight. That's the best comparison I can make. It was really, really strong work by Ben Kingsley. And if there's ever a time when he's going to get a second Oscar, it's for doing out-of-body work like this. Not to say that he's necessarily a big candidate or anything, but he might get a Golden Globe nomination out of this if the movie does well. But yeah, certainly I think Ben Kingsley did a truly great, did some great work. The Mandarin, otherwise, there's a big, big surprise kind of plot twist with this character that I'm not going to reveal. I'm not going to come close to revealing because it absolutely will ruin your experience with this film. For those of you who are going out to see it this weekend and after this. But I have to say, it's something, if I were writing this, directing this, figuring this story out, I probably would have not done what they did. Not to say what they did was horrible or anything like that. It wasn't a Spider-Man 3 moment or anything like that. No, it wasn't that bad. But it just kind of, it's Ben Kingsley. And the way they created this character, I would have played it a little straighter. I don't think that's giving away too much. But certainly the performance he gave was tremendous and at times actually a little humorous. But yeah, that was, in the theater I was in, mainly teenagers by the way, there was kind of silence for a moment there. And then they kind of caught on, oh, okay, this is what this is. Because it's kind of a surprising, out of the blue moment. And you don't really see it coming. As he says, yeah, he says in the trailer, you'll never see me coming. Let's see, other than that, let's see, that's the main cast. And then the supporting cast was pretty good. I remember there was a kid character. That was a really, really good kid in a movie. I mean, if this kid had been like Anakin Skywalker, the prequel series would have been fine. You know, it's one of the, and I think it's more the actor and the writing, you know, definitely an improvement over Star Wars. But yeah, I really, really liked his character. I liked all the stuff. The thing about this movie that I think might turn off a few audiences is this is quite different from the other two Iron Man films. The first one, but they're all three kind of different. Kind of like the Dark Knight trilogy. Each one is kind of different. Just the tone and the look of each film is different. The first film in the Dark Knight series, for example, Batman Begins, actually is a little bit lighter than it seems, but its tone and stuff is probably the darkest they get in that trilogy. Whereas the Dark Knight, everything's kind of, you know, it's blackened for a reason, you know, and it's kind of dimmed down just because of the Joker, and that is a tremendous effect. And then The Dark Knight Rises is just completely different as far as tone goes, because its tone kind of shifts at times. And I think that's the strength of that film, but some people certainly did not like that. This film, Iron Man 3, and we look at the trilogy here, not as bad at tonal shifts. But then again, this film is about 40 minutes shorter than The Dark Knight Rises, so if it did, it would probably be enough to cripple the film, and they discovered that probably in the writing stage, and not the showcase first screening stage. Thank God. But Iron Man 1 is kind of, you know, lighter, except for the beginning. You know, it's kind of, you know, he's in the cave and stuff. And then it gets kind of darker toward the end. And then Iron Man 2 is always light and humorous on its feet, except for the, you know, a couple moments with the villain. Iron Man 3 gets pretty serious in some spots. There's definitely some moments where nobody's laughing in the theater. There's definitely some moments where you get that break, which sometimes we desperately need. But yeah, I think one of the bigger weaknesses of Iron Man 3 is that the action scenes are a little bombastic, and they are a little, you know, overdone sometimes. Not really too long, but just a little, yeah, like I said, explosion heavy. You can tell the boom box, you know, the boom operator on this film had a lot of fun. Of course, there's probably only a few real explosions in the movie, and a lot of it's CG. But and the movie kind of had a little bit of a slow start. You know, the first Iron Man film picked up right away with an action scene. Second Iron Man film had at least a part where they had like AC/DC and stuff. And that's another thing. This might be a little bit of a spoiler here, but I don't care. It's not necessarily to the plot of the film. There's no, I never heard an AC/DC song in this film. That stinks. That's serious. I felt that was maybe something that, you know, could have been, you know, fixed. Hang on a second. Stupid heater. Okay, sorry you couldn't hear me there, but yeah, I was basically saying, no AC/DC in this movie. That's criticism. That is actually a criticism, because that's kind of the spirit of Tony Stark. But as you see in the previews, Tony Stark isn't quite himself, and that's definitely part of the beginning. But yeah, certainly another thing that helped, I was saying in my Iron Man 1 review, I hope they do something with Dummy. Oh yeah, they did, and it was entertaining and it was funny. Dummy's always going to be I think it's going to be one of the more memorable parts of this Iron Man trilogy. And I think of just Marvel in general, Dummy is one of the more you know, memorable characters, just from Iron Man 1 at least. But yeah, definitely this is kind of a darker toned and darker lit movie, especially in the middle. This gets kind of dark and at times a little ominous. And that's kind of cool. That just makes it up a little bit. I think just coming fresh off of the Avengers, which had Joss Whedon, you know, a much more, you know, experienced director, you could say. Whereas Shane Black, you know, he had all the screenplay stuff and all the comedy stuff figured out. Yes. Which film is funnier? It's a little bit funnier and more. I'm leaning toward the Avengers in this case, but Iron Man 3 definitely has some spots. The biggest laugh in the film, one of the lines by Robert Downey Jr. involving the kid. Oh man, the theater I was in, we howled at that. We howled at that. But it wasn't quite as big as the Hulk beats up Loki. The theater I was in, when that scene came on, there was applause, there was roaring laughter. I think I heard a door shut, which means somebody had to leave. They were laughing so hard. And yeah, that moment kind of came out of nowhere. This line kind of almost originates from Tony's subconscious, way back in the back of his head or something. Yeah, but and then I think the action scenes in the Avengers was pretty swift, well shot, and you know, and everything. And not to say that Iron Man 3 is not well shot, but it is a little bombastic. That's the word I keep using here, bombastic. And toward the end, it kind of got a little exhausting. But that maybe it's the time of night, and it's just that. But yeah, definitely I say Iron Man 3 is a strong entry in the Marvel series, because you know, I like Captain America and I like Thor. I didn't love him. I kind of liked Iron Man 2, and I kind of liked the Incredible Hulk. The Avengers and Iron Man were strong. This is in that Captain America Thor quality. I give it 8 out of 10. Iron Man 3, it's not a disappointment, but coming off the Avengers, we would expect maybe just a little bit more, but it certainly did not disappoint in a general sense. In a general sense, this was a good movie, and this left, you know, it leaves room for Phase 2 to take off, and to be, it's going to be great to see all these characters like Captain America, like Thor, kind of get their own movie again, so that we can, you know, and it builds up their character a little bit, so that when we get them all back in the Avengers 2, they're going to be totally different people, I bet. And certainly I have to say, there's a couple Marvel things that I have to talk about. The Stan Lee cameo was kind of, it's kind of like they had one idea that was maybe too big and they didn't use it, and then they had another idea and they said, well, that'll work, and they used the other idea when the first idea probably would work better. But it kind of felt crammed in a little bit. It kind of felt a little, I don't know, like it could have ended up on the cutting room floor and they would have put him in somewhere else. Maybe that would have worked better, but certainly I think the place they put him in, not the best Stan Lee cameo ever in Marvel. I like the one in The Amazing Spider-Man though. That was funny. That was funny. I give that film credit for that. And then I liked Stan Lee's cameo in The Avengers was kind of off, but it was, the more you think about it, I think the better you might like it. And of course, I stuck around for the post-credit scene. This Iron Man 3 did have one, and it was funny to say. It was kind of a surprise, and it's something where you're like, oh, it's kind of cool, And certainly, I say that Marvel should keep coming with these. As long as Stan Lee is willing to do a cameo for each film, let him keep doing cameos. As long as they want to keep doing post-credit stuff, they're starting to feel like they're getting longer each time. Like to the point now, like the Avengers had two, one midway through the credits, one after the credits, and together they're like probably 2 minutes of screen time or something. Whereas the other stuff, like Iron Man's, was only about 45 seconds. The Incredible Hulk, did that even have a post-credit scene? Can't remember. It's been so long since I've seen that movie. Iron Man 2's was pretty short. Thor's was about a minute. Captain America's was half a preview, so that doesn't even technically count. So it was more like 30 seconds. And this one was like a minute and a half at least. So they're starting to get longer, almost like their own scenes. Like pretty soon we'll have a post-credit scene for, like, I don't know, Captain America 2 that's going to be like 3.5 minutes long, and it feels like, oh, they should have stuck this in toward the end maybe or something. No, but another thing you feel is definitely the absence of S.H.I.E.L.D. There's usually been a S.H.I.E.L.D. reference here or there somewhere in these movies, or at least something. Like, of course, we had Nick Fury in a lot of the original Phase 1 films. And of course he's only billed in like Iron Man 2 and the Avengers, but in Iron Man 1 and in Thor and in Captain America he was there. And he is, as reports say, he is not here in Iron Man 3. He does not make a surprise cameo. And we don't see Black Widow, we don't see S.H.I.E.L.D., and of course Agent Coulson is dead, I guess, even though there's a show coming out with him as the main star. And yeah, I'm excited for Phase 2. This is Phase 2 of Marvel after they set up everything. Now they're gonna, it's like they build them up, and they show them here, and now they're gonna deconstruct and they're gonna build them back up. And I think Iron Man 3 is a strong entry in the series. Check it out, and it's late, so I'm gonna end this right now. Sign off. Watch my Iron Man review. Nobody has so far, last I checked. So do that, and I'm going to go back and see Iron Man 3 actually this weekend. I think I've already bought a ticket. I'm going to go see it in 3D this time. And in IMAX 3D. It's going to be cool to see. There's a couple moments I'm sure that are going to be, pow, worth the ticket price. But me and a few family members, outside family members, yeah, it's going to be a fun time. So yeah, go see Iron Man 3. It's going to be an event this weekend, and some people say, and I'm going to say it's going to come just short of this, it could top the Avengers opening weekend. I don't think it's quite going to happen, but I think it's going to come close. I expect an opening of 192.5 million. That's my prediction, 192.5. We'll see how close I get. And part of that comes from 3D inflation anyway. So, with that, go see Iron Man 3.